Sign it, old man. The house, the savings, even that lottery ticket you're too senile to cash. It all belongs to me now. You're nothing but trash waiting for the nursing home van. I sat at my own kitchen table while my son said it like he was talking about the weather. He slid a plastic cup of yogurt across to me. I peeled back the lid and saw the date. 4 months expired. The sour, rotten smell hit me before the spoon even touched it. Eat it, he smirked. It's good enough for you. Your body's already spoiled. My fingers trembled. This kitchen had been my safe place for decades. The smell of bacon in the mornings, coffee shared in silence with my late wife. Now cardboard boxes crowded the floor. His boxes. He had already started moving his girlfriend's things in. He wasn't hiding it. He was preparing to take my home while I rotted in some nursing facility. You know what's smart, Dad? He said, spreading out a blank sheet of paper with a pen. Sign it now. No lawyers, no drama. If you don't, you'll end up with nothing anyway. I can drive you over to the home tomorrow. They'll make sure you cooperate. I stayed silent. My ruined arm throbbed, a constant reminder of the surgery I had put off for years. $200,000 sat untouched in my account. Money I had saved for that operation. I skipped meals, skipped comforts, skipped life itself, because I was saving for him, for his future. And now he sat across from me, telling me I was already dead. I looked up at him. His eyes were cold, narrowed, not a flicker of shame. He saw me as nothing but a worn-out chair left at the curb. But he didn't know me. I always played quieter than I felt, and I always waited for the right moment. Don't go anywhere. What happens next will shock you to the core. Subscribe now and tell me in the comments. What's your name and where are you watching from? A month before that morning, my days still started the same way. 6:10, no alarm, just habit. The kitchen in my San Mateo house smelled like old coffee and the lemon polish I'd used on the counter the night before. I had to lift my right arm with my left hand, the shoulder joint grinding like a rusty hinge. The doctor called it advanced rotator cuff tear with bone damage. To me, it just meant I couldn't even pour cereal without wincing. The drip coffee machine clicked and hissed, filling a chipped mug from the auto shop where I'd worked half my life. I tore open a packet of instant oatmeal with my teeth, because my bad hand couldn't hold the scissors. Outside, a neighbor's radio leaked through the thin wall, a morning show mumbling about traffic on the 101 and fog over the bay. My phone buzzed. You up? My son asked. His tone had the flat efficiency of a manager, not a child. Been up, I said. I sent you a link for a smart thermostat. You never remember how to set the one you have. I remember. Dad, don't start. Emily and I looked at your bills. You're burning cash on heating. I'll just put it on autopay from my... He paused. From one account. Don't worry about it. From yours? Relax. It's easier this way. Easier for him, maybe. I looked at the notebook on the counter. Neat columns of numbers, insurance notes, and at the bottom circled twice. $200,000 surgery fund. Reverse total, shoulder replacement, Stanford Clinic. Money I'd scraped together by skipping repairs, meals out, even vacations. Money I never touched because, stupid as it sounds, I thought I was saving it for him. Will you come by this weekend? I asked. Emily's got a shift at Walgreens. I've got meetings, maybe Monday. He hung up before I could answer. The silence after the call was thicker than the hum of the fridge. I sipped my coffee and burned my tongue. Same as every morning. And for a second, I saw him at 10 years old, demanding I slice bananas into little trees for his oatmeal. Now the bananas blackened untouched on the windowsill. On Tuesday, I climbed the worn steps to the HOA office, my shoulder aching with every pull on the rail. The hallway smelled of bleach and old carpet. Inside, the community room buzzed with small talk, styrofoam cups, and a tray of Costco cookies on the folding table. The projector flickered against a white wall. Agenda, fences, parking, dog park maintenance. I sat near the door out of habit. If my arm flared up, I could leave without making a scene. A minute later, my son walked in, tapping on his phone, Emily trailing behind in her blue Walgreens uniform. She gave me a polite nod, nothing more. Dad, he whispered as he dropped into the chair beside me. I checked your insurance. You're overpaying. Hand me your card. I frowned. It's in my wallet. Then give it. What for? So you don't screw it up. I'll handle it. Before I could protest, he slid the leather wallet from my jacket pocket like it already belonged to him. He snapped a photo of the card with his phone and slipped it back with a little smirk. You sure about this? I asked quietly. Dad, relax. It's better this way. The HOA president cleared his throat at the front. Any maintenance issues? My son's hand shot up. Yes, Ethan? My father's gate doesn't close. Someone should fix it before he hurts himself. A few heads turned toward me. Heat crept up my neck. I never asked, I started, but Ethan cut me off. He's too proud to mention it, but it's dangerous. Imagine him falling out there. A ripple of chuckles passed through the room. Not cruel, but pitying. The kind of laugh people give when they see someone slipping and don't want to get involved. I clenched my good hand around the chair arm. After the meeting, as people filed out, a neighbor clapped Ethan on the back. Good you're looking out for him. These old places can be risky. Ethan grinned. Somebody has to take responsibility. And just like that, in front of half the neighborhood, I was no longer the man who built that house board by board. I was a liability. Saturday afternoon, Ethan invited a few friends over to help with the garage. I didn't know until I came home from the grocery store and saw 3 cars lined up in my driveway. The garage door was open, music spilling out from a Bluetooth speaker, laughter echoing into the street. I carried in a bag of groceries with my left hand, cradling it awkwardly against my chest because my right arm wouldn't bend. A carton of milk slipped, hit the floor, and split open. White liquid spread across the concrete like a slow tide. Careful there, Dad, Ethan called out loud enough for everyone to hear. Don't break a hip on the way in. The group laughed. One of his buddies actually slapped his knee, like it was the funniest line of the day. I bent down clumsily, trying to mop the spill with a rag, my bad shoulder screaming with every move. Emily leaned against the workbench, sipping from a can of sparkling water. Maybe he needs one of those little delivery services, you know? Like Meals on Wheels, she said, smiling sweetly at the others. Another burst of laughter. My ears burned hot. I forced myself to stand, set the bag on the counter, and reached for the rag again, slower this time. You should have seen him last week, Ethan continued, shaking his head like it was an inside joke. Took him 10 minutes just to get the gate open. I told him, Dad, you're not running this house anymore. You're the guest. A friend whistled low. Guest in your own place, huh? That's tough. Ethan smirked, clinking his can against Emily's. He'll get used to it. The words stung sharper than the smell of sour milk soaking into my sneakers. I stood there in my own garage, the same one I'd built shelves for, painted twice, repaired after storms, and realized I'd just been made the punchline in front of strangers. I didn't argue, I didn't shout, but I felt something inside shift, like a door quietly locking from the inside. A week later, Ethan showed up alone, without warning. I was at the dining table with my notebook open, bills spread out in neat piles. The late afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, stripes of light across the papers. My pen hovered above the column marked savings. He walked in like the place already belonged to him, dropped his keys on the counter, and pulled a chair out with a screech. Dad, we need to talk about the house, he said flatly. I closed the notebook halfway. What about it? He leaned back, arms crossed. You can't handle it anymore. The taxes, the repairs, the insurance. Emily and I have been looking at numbers. It's not practical for you. But for us, he smiled. It's perfect. Big enough for a family. Exactly what we need. The word us rang in my ears. I'm still living here, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Yeah, for now. But let's be honest. He tapped the table, fingers drumming against the wood I had refinished with my own hands. This house is already my inheritance. Everyone knows that. Why drag it out? Why wait until you... He stopped, but the word hung there. Die. My chest tightened. You're talking like I'm not in the room. Ethan shrugged. I'm being realistic. You should be proud, Dad. Not many people get to hand their kids a place like this. It's security. A future. Isn't that what you saved for? I stared at him. He didn't know about the lottery ticket tucked into the old Bible on my shelf, the numbers I had checked twice, then 3 times. $36 million. I had planned to surprise him one day, to change his life. Instead, he sat here, asking me to erase myself for the sake of square footage. Don't worry, he added, softer now, like he was offering comfort. We'll make sure you're taken care of. There's a good assisted living place down the road. Clean, nice people. You'd have your own room. I laughed once, short, bitter. My own room, in a place I'd never choose. He didn't flinch. He picked up my pen and spun it between his fingers. Think of it this way, Dad. You give us this house now. You save yourself the stress. It's inevitable anyway. Might as well make it official. I looked at his face, my son's face, and realized he wasn't asking. He was rehearsing a future where I was already gone. Sunday evening, I tried to do something simple. Cook dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta with marinara, the way I used to make it when Ethan was a kid. The sauce bubbled low on the stove, the smell of garlic filling the kitchen. I set 2 plates, hoping he'd sit down with me for once instead of rushing out. He came in mid-call, phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah, babe, I'm here now." "No, don't worry. We'll have the place ready soon. My dad's still around." A pause, then a laugh. "Yeah, like furniture you can't get rid of." He ended the call and dropped onto the couch without looking at the food. The TV clicked on, flooding the room with commercials. "Dinner's ready," I said quietly. "Already ate with Emily." He didn't turn his head. "Don't wait on me." The pasta cooled. I twirled a forkful, forcing myself to chew. Each bite tasted like cardboard. Later, as I carried the dishes back to the sink, I heard voices again. Ethan had switched to speakerphone. Emily's laugh cut through the static. "So when does he move out?" she asked. "Soon," Ethan said. "He just doesn't know it yet." My hand froze on the faucet. The water ran cold over my knuckles. They talked about me as if I weren't 10 feet away, as if I were some stubborn tenant refusing to leave. I walked to the living room doorway. "Did you say something?" Ethan muted the phone. "Dad, don't eavesdrop. It's rude." "I live here," I answered. "Exactly," he said, smirking. "For now." The words landed heavier than the dishes in the sink. My own son, in my own house, had managed to make me feel like the intruder. I went back to the kitchen, shut the light, and ate the last cold forkful straight from the pot. Even the house seemed to sigh around me, the walls holding a silence that wasn't mine anymore. The cramps started fast, a hard twist under my ribs that made the room tilt. I gripped the counter with my left hand. My right shoulder flared so sharply I saw silver at the edges of my vision. The sour yogurt still sat open on the table, lid curled back like a grin. "Sit," Ethan said, already pulling a folder from his backpack. "You're dehydrated and confused." "I'm fine," I said, voice thin. He slid a single sheet toward me. Blank lines, witness lines, notary block, durable power of attorney. "And sign it and let me help. This is what responsible families do. I didn't ask you to—" He set a glass of water just out of reach. "You can't ask. That's the point." A knock. Emily stepped in without waiting, followed by a woman in a blazer with a gold badge that read, "Golden Oak Senior Living. Placement Coordinator." A mobile notary hovered behind them, tote bag zipped open, stamp ready. "Mr. Howard?" the coordinator chirped. "We just want what's best. Golden Oaks has a lovely memory care wing, private room, activities." "I don't need memory care," I managed. Ethan's smile was paper thin. "Dad, be reasonable. This is a formality." On the muted TV, a scrolling ticker caught my eye. California Lottery, Powerball numbers from last night. The numbers marched across the bottom of the screen. My heart tripped. I knew them. I knew them the way you know your own phone number. My Bible on the shelf wasn't a Bible anymore. It was a beacon. "Pen, please," I said. Ethan brightened, thrusting the pen into my left hand. "Good, let's finish." I didn't touch the paper. I stood, slow, steadying myself on the chair. The coordinator moved to guide me. I shook her off. "I need my glasses," I lied, and shuffled past them into the living room. The Bible lay where it always did, worn black cover, soft as cloth. My fingers slid the ticket from between Psalms and Ecclesiastes. The numbers lined up in my head like soldiers, every single one. "Dad?" Ethan's voice sharpened. "What's that?" "A bookmark," I said. Emily's eyes narrowed. "He's hiding something." Ethan took 2 steps and stopped himself, glancing back at the notary. Optics, witnesses. He couldn't snatch without looking like the villain he was. Micro-conflicts stacked fast. "Sir, we really should get your father evaluated," the coordinator said to Ethan, ignoring me. "I'm right here," I said. "Exactly," Ethan replied. "And you're not making sense." I slid the ticket into my wallet, then slipped the wallet down inside my boot. My bad shoulder screamed as I bent. I let it. Pain had become a language I understood. "Back to the table," Ethan said. "Let's finish the paperwork." On the TV, the anchor's mouth moved silently under the words, "Jackpot, $36 million. The room smelled like lemon polish and the faint chemical tang of the notary's ink. I walked back, sat, and placed my left hand flat over the blank form. "No," I said. Ethan's jaw flexed. No? I'll sign the back of a check. I'll sign my own name on my own things, but I won't sign myself away. The notary shifted, uncomfortable. The coordinator pasted on a gentler smile. There's no need for stubbornness. Ethan leaned in close, voice low and sharp. You don't get to decide anymore. I held his stare. Behind him, the TV kept looping the numbers. Behind me, my boot held the only thing in the house that could still decide my future. Then take me to Walgreens, I said. Let's check your confused father's ticket. Silence. Then Ethan laughed once. Perfect. We'll handle it together. Together. He meant take it. I meant prove it. Walgreens on El Camino was bright enough to sting. The automatic doors breathed cold air on my face as we stepped inside. Emily walked ahead, leading us past greeting cards and seasonal end caps toward the red lottery scanner by the photo counter. Afternoon, Mr. Howard, the shift lead said to Ethan, not me. He wore a name tag that read Ty. He looked from Ethan to my arm and back, reading the situation the way people read weather. Everything okay? Just helping my dad, Ethan said smoothly. He gets mixed up. I don't, I said. Emily folded her arms. We're just going to check a ticket. Quick and easy. Micro-conflict, first beat. Ty's eyes flicked to me, then to the scanner. You know big wins don't pay out here, right? Over a certain amount, the machine just says to contact the lottery office. That's fine, Ethan said. It's a curiosity. I took the ticket out with my left hand. My right shoulder throbbed in sync with my pulse. The scanner beeped as I fed the edge under the red light. For a half second, nothing happened. Then the machine spit out a slip. See Lottery Office. A chime sounded, louder than it had any right to be. Emily's smile froze. Ethan didn't blink. He reached. I'll hold it for you. I moved faster than I knew I could, pinning the ticket to the counter with my palm. I'll hold it myself. Second beat, a woman behind us in line said, Congratulations, without knowing why. Another voice. Lucky day, huh? The attention shifted like a tide, strangers turning our private war into aisle-side theater. Ethan's tone sweetened, sugar over steel. Dad, people are watching. Don't make this embarrassing. Embarrassing, I said. You brought a notary to my kitchen. Emily leaned in, whispering too loudly. Sir, if you're not sure what you're doing, Ethan can sign for you. Ty cleared his throat. That's not how it works. Who asked you? Ethan snapped. Third beat, a familiar voice behind me. Mr. Alvarez from the HOA, holding a prescription bag. Everything okay, Howard? His eyes dropped to the ticket, then to Ethan's hand hovering too close. It's fine, Ethan said, a shade too fast. My dad needs help with paperwork. Do you have power of attorney? Ty asked carefully. Ethan set a folded form on the counter like a trump card. In progress. In progress isn't the same as in effect, Ty said. The line behind us grew, a couple with a stroller, a teenager in a baseball cap. Air conditioning hummed, the scanner light blinked. Ready again, impatient. Ethan tried a new angle. Dad, let me keep this safe for you. You almost signed away your mortgage last week because you mixed up envelopes. That never happened, I said. It almost did, Emily said, inventing history with a pharmacist's diction. I took the pen Ty offered and, with my left hand, signed the back of the ticket. Shaky, slow, but legible. Ethan watched the ink dry, something mean and calculating passing through his eyes like a shadow of a bird crossing sunlit ground. You don't even know what you're doing, he said softly. I know enough, I said. Ty slid a clear sleeve across the counter. Put it in this. Keep it dry and flat. Ethan shifted tactics again, voice pitched for the audience. Dad, you need medical attention. Look at your arm. Look at you. This is why we talked about golden oaks. Fourth beat. Pity murmurs from the line. The word golden hung in the air like a verdict. I'm taking the ticket to the house, I said. Then I'm calling the lottery office. Alone. Ethan moved to block me, a gentle step that wasn't gentle. Ty stepped around the counter. Sir, you can't block the exit. Emily tried one more time, breath sweet with mint gum. Don't you want us to handle this? For you? I slid the signed ticket into the sleeve, then into my inside pocket. My heart pounded, but my voice came out level. For me is not the same as from me. Mr. Alvarez shifted to my side without a word, an old man's quiet solidarity. Micro-conflict, final beat. Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked at the audience, measured their faces, and swallowed whatever he'd planned to do. I walked out under the buzzing fluorescence into the bright San Mateo afternoon. The doors whooshed open like a blessing. Behind me, I heard Ethan's voice, low and furious, and Emily's, tight and practical, words for later. The sidewalk heat rose off the concrete. Somewhere a Channel 7 news van siren wailed distantly on El Camino. I kept my left hand flat over the pocket where the ticket rested, ink still drying, name still mine. It started with a sharp twist in my gut. At first I thought it was the same dull ache I'd learned to live with, but then the floor shifted under my feet. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, knuckles white, my bad shoulder screaming as I leaned. The sour yogurt still sat open on the table. Its lid, curled back, showed the date plain as day, expired by 4 months. "You're pale," Ethan said, sliding a folder in front of me. His voice was calm, too calm. "Sit down before you fall. We can take care of this now." "I don't—" My throat caught on the words. "You don't what? You don't understand? That's the problem, Dad." He opened the folder, tapping the blank lines with the tip of a pen. "Power of attorney, nothing scary, just a signature so I can manage things for you." I blinked at the page, clean, deceptively harmless. My stomach knotted again, harder. I reached for the glass of water, but he slid it back an inch. Not enough for me to reach. "You're not thinking straight," Ethan went on. "It's for your good. You can't keep up with bills, with repairs, with yourself. I'm already covering everything anyway." Before I could answer, the front door opened. Emily walked in, her Walgreens badge still pinned crooked on her scrubs. Behind her came a woman in a fitted blazer, carrying a leather folio. A gold pin gleamed on her lapel, Golden Oaks Senior Living, and trailing them, a mobile notary, his black tote unzipped, stamp and seal peeking out like vultures. "Mr. Howard," the woman said, bright and rehearsed. "I'm Rachel with Golden Oaks. We've got a beautiful private room ready whenever you're comfortable. Activities, medical staff, safety. Families love it." "I'm not moving," I said hoarsely. Rachel smiled like she hadn't heard. "Change is never easy, but it's for the best." Ethan gestured at the table. "We're just getting him settled." The notary set a heavy stamp down. The metallic click echoed louder than it should have. My gaze drifted past them to the muted TV on the counter. A news ticker scrolled along the bottom. Powerball winning numbers. Last night's draw. My chest tightened. The sequence glowed in my mind, familiar. Impossible. They matched the numbers folded between the pages of my Bible. Numbers I'd checked twice, then tucked away. I pushed back my chair. "I need my glasses." "Sit!" Ethan snapped. "We're almost done." But I shuffled toward the living room, hand pressed to my side. The Bible lay on the shelf where it always did, black cover worn smooth. I slipped the folded ticket free. The numbers lined up perfect. $36 million. Emily's voice cut sharp. "What is that?" "A bookmark," I said, sliding it into my pocket. My heart pounded so loud I thought the whole room could hear. Ethan's face twitched, calculation flickering behind his eyes. With the notary watching, he couldn't lunge. Not yet. "Let's go," I told him, my voice steadier than I felt. "We'll check it together." The automatic doors at Walgreens sighed open, washing me in cold air that smelled of floor cleaner and plastic packaging. Ethan stayed close to my shoulder, Emily half a step ahead, like she was leading the way. In her hand, my son's folder, the one with the blank forms, peeked from under her arm. We moved past the candy aisle toward the lottery scanner by the photo counter. The machine hummed, a little red light blinking. Ready. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Let's just make this quick," Ethan said. "People are staring already." "I don't care," I muttered. My left hand trembled as I pulled the ticket from my pocket. Emily's voice lifted, sweet and condescending. "Don't be nervous, sir. If it's nothing, at least you'll stop imagining things." I slid the ticket under the scanner. A high-pitched beep rang out. For a breathless second, nothing. Then a slip of paper spit out. "See Lottery Office." The machine chimed louder than it had any right to. Heads turned. A teenager in a baseball cap clapped his buddy on the shoulder. "Yo, that means he hit big." An older woman near the pharmacy counter grinned. "Congratulations, honey." The words spread like sparks in dry grass. Suddenly the air thickened with attention. Shoppers leaned, eyes bright, curious. My son's jaw tightened. "I'll hold that for you, Dad," Ethan said smoothly, reaching for the ticket. I pinned it to the counter with my palm. "Number, I'll hold it myself." Emily laughed nervously. "He gets confused sometimes, thinks people are stealing from him." "Looks clear enough to me," said the clerk behind the counter, a young man with a badge that read tie. His gaze flicked from me to Ethan, cautious. Ethan's shifted tone, all sugar. Dad, don't embarrass yourself. Everyone's watching. Let me take care of this. You brought a notary to my kitchen, I said loud enough for the bystanders to hear. And now you want to take this too? A murmur rippled through the line. Someone whispered, "That's his dad?" Ty handed me a plastic sleeve. "Sir, you should sign the back and keep it safe." I pulled the pen from him and scrawled my name across the cardboard with my left hand. Shaky, but legible. Ethan's face froze as the ink dried. "You don't even know what you're doing," he hissed under his breath. "I know enough," I said. Behind me, a familiar voice. Mr. Alvarez from the HOA spoke up. "Looks like he's doing just fine." He stood with a pharmacy bag in his hand, eyes sharp on Ethan. The silence that followed was thick. Emily's smile collapsed. Ethan looked around at the small circle of strangers, at Ty behind the counter, at Alvarez by my side. Every face told him the same thing. This wasn't his moment. I slid the signed ticket into the sleeve, then into my jacket. The plastic crinkled, loud and certain. My left hand stayed pressed against it as I walked out into the glaring afternoon sun. For the first time that day, I felt steady, bruised, aching, but steady. Back home, the house breathed like a tired animal. The refrigerator hummed, the air vents sighed, the clock on the stove blinked 12:00 because I'd never set it right after the last outage. I poured coffee I didn't want, watched it steam and fade, and left it untouched. The lottery ticket lay in my jacket like a heated coin. Every few minutes, my hand went to check it was still there. I called Ethan. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I tried Emily. She picked up on the second ring, background beeps, and the muffled pharmacy intercom. "Please don't call me at work," she said. "I need to speak to my son. He's handling it, for your own good." A pause. "Golden Oaks has availability this month. It's nice." Click. Yet a micro-conflict, small and mean. A neighbor's headlight swept across my living room. Mr. Alvarez slowed, saw me at the window, and lifted a hand halfway, then thought better of it and drove on. Maybe he didn't want to choose sides. Maybe he already had. I opened the notebook on the table. Surgery fund, $200,000, reverse total shoulder replacement, bone prep, prosthetic components, inpatient rehab. The numbers marched across the page, cold and neat. I'd set this aside to fix myself. Years of saying later. Years of telling myself it would be his emergency fund if mine never came. The sink dripped in a steady metronome. I shut it off harder than I needed to. Pain shot up my arm and bloomed behind my collarbone. I drove to the diner on El Camino because I couldn't sit still. The booth vinyl was cracked, the ketchup bottle sticky around the cap. A Channel 7 segment ran on the mounted TV. Feel-good fluff between crime updates. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag that read Marlene, set down a plate I couldn't lift with my right hand. "You all right, hun?" "Just my shoulder." "You here alone?" "Looks like it." She topped off my coffee without asking. In the corner, two men talked about somebody's father who'd fallen, how the facility down by the freeway took care of everything. The words slid across the room like grease. I paid cash. My fingers fumbled the bills. The girl at the register smiled too brightly. "Do you need help, sir?" she asked, the sir landing like a pat on the head. At Walgreens, I tried to pick up my refill out of habit. "Already picked up this morning," the pharmacist said. "By who?" He glanced at the screen. "Authorized family member, Ethan." Authorized. I walked out empty-handed. The late sun threw long bars of light across the parking lot. Somewhere, a plane climbed through the haze toward SFO, a silver speck leaving a white thread behind. Back home, I stood in the hallway where Linda's reading glasses still sat on a paperback she never finished. I reached out, then didn't. Grief is muscle memory. It lifts when it should pull, pulls when it should let go. I moved the lottery ticket from my jacket to a safer place. Not the Bible anymore. I slid it into a plastic bag, pressed out the air, and tucked it behind the cover of the HVAC return, where the screw is always loose. The metal rasped. Dust lifted like pale smoke. I tried the bank's app. There was a new linked payee I didn't recognize, set up yesterday. I called the number on the back of my card, listened to the piano hold music until a voice came on and told me politely that changes had been made from a recognized device, and if I wanted to dispute it, I needed to visit a branch with ID. Tomorrow then, if tomorrow still belonged to me. I sat at the table and wrote one line in the notebook, block letters that pressed through to the wood underneath. They want me gone. The house settled. The clock blinked. In the silence, I could hear my own breath catch like a shoe on a stair you forgot was there. I closed the notebook, the pen rolled, stopped against my palm, and stayed. Sleep didn't come. I lay on the couch because the bed felt like a place for two, and two had been gone for years. At 2:17 a.m., a car alarm 3 houses down coughed to life and died again. At 3:41, the sprinklers kicked on outside, a soft hiss like whispering you couldn't quite make out. At 4:06, I gave up. I drove. No destination, just streets that knew my tires. Past the strip mall with the dark windows sign. Past the church hall where Linda used to hand out paper cups of lemonade at the summer fair. Past Golden Oaks itself. Its entrance washed in soft lights, the kind that make everything look gentle. A night nurse pushed a resident in a chair across the lobby. The doors opened like a mouth exhaling warmth. I sat at the curb with my headlights off and watched the doors close again. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Stop making this difficult. I'm trying to protect you. We'll talk tomorrow." Another buzz seconds later. "Bring the ticket. I'll keep it safe." I typed and erased 3 replies. In the end, I sent nothing. At dawn, I went to Chase. The branch lights were still coming on, blinds lifting, the air inside chilly from the night's AC. The manager introduced herself as Kara, a young woman with careful hair and the bright smile of someone trained to say no without sounding like it. "I'd like to remove a linked external account," I said, sliding my ID across. She typed, nodded, frowned. "We can secure the profile and reset devices, Mr. Howard, but whoever linked it had access to your phone or credentials. Do you store passwords?" "In my head," I said, and apparently in his. "Micro-conflict," she lowered her voice. "Is there a power of attorney in place?" "There is not. If someone presents one, we'd need to verify before allowing access." "Good," I said. "Don't allow anything." She printed forms, highlighted lines, watched my left hand shake as I signed. "If you suspect financial exploitation," she added gently, "we can file an internal report." The words tasted like pennies. "It's my son," I said. Her eyes softened. "It often is." Outside, the morning had warmed. I bought a coffee at the corner Starbucks and sat by the window, the cup sleeve rough against my palm. A father and little boy came in, the boy tugging his hand, chattering about cake pops. The father bent to listen, like the words mattered more than the line. I looked away. I tried a lawyer next, a name Kara had scribbled on a post-it. Ellen Cho, elder law. The receptionist had a cheerful machine gun cadence. "Earliest consult is 2 weeks out." "I don't have 2 weeks." "Do you have a current emergency?" "Yes." "Is there already a power of attorney?" "In progress," I said, and hated how it sounded. "We have a cancellation list. Leave your number." I left my number. She thanked me like I'd done something helpful. Back home, the mailbox held a glossy brochure from Golden Oaks. Someone had added my name to the list. On the cover, a man with hair whiter than mine played chess with a young volunteer who looked suspiciously like an actor. Inside, bullet points: independence, dignity, peace of mind. I tore it in half, then in half again, and the pieces still felt too large. I called Ethan anyway. He picked up on the first ring, voice smooth. "Finally, ready to stop fighting me?" "I'm ready to stop something." "Good. Bring the ticket. We'll start paperwork. You'll thank me later." "Will I?" "You don't get it," he snapped, the Polish cracking. "You're in the way. Emily and I, we have plans. You should be excited for us. The ticket will actually do some good in our hands." I let the silence stretch until he said my name like a warning. "Dad." I hung up. The house felt smaller after that. I walked from room to room like a man checking for leaks in a boat already taking on water. In the bedroom, Linda's sweater still hung on the back of a chair, a soft blue that had refused to fade. I pressed it to my face and breathed in a memory that wasn't there anymore. On the kitchen table, I opened the notebook again. Under the first line, I wrote another. "If I keep asking, I'll keep losing." Then a third. "Stop asking. Start proving." The shoulder ached like a storm moving in. The ticket rustled in its plastic like a small, stubborn heartbeat behind the vent. I stood in the doorway and let the shape of a plan lift its head, clumsy and half-formed but alive. The bottom had a floor. I'd found it, and floors hold weight. Night pressed against the windows again, before I realized I hadn't eaten. I cracked 2 eggs into a pan, burned them, ate them anyway. The house hummed. Somewhere a neighbor's dog barked once and gave up. I turned off the lights room by room until the only glow left was the hallway nightlight Linda insisted on, years ago, so you don't break your toes in the dark. In the dark, I whispered it out loud to make it real. No more asking. Tomorrow had work in it, not hope, work. The morning after I wrote no more asking in my notebook, I forced myself into motion. Pain in my shoulders screamed with every button of my shirt, but I ignored it. Routine is camouflage. If Ethan suspected I was planning anything, he'd tighten the net. So I left the house as if I were running errands. I started with the bank. Kara, the branch manager, had been cautious but kind yesterday. Today she slid a packet across the desk, lowering her voice. "We keep records of every access, Mr. Howard. Here's a copy. Just keep it safe." I nodded, sliding the papers into my jacket. On the printouts, Ethan's name didn't appear outright, but his device ID did, tied to multiple login attempts. He hadn't waited for power of attorney. He was already probing, testing the doors. Micro-conflict. Kara hesitated. "If you think he might escalate, you should consider reporting." "To who?" I asked. "Adult Protective Services." "He's my son." She sighed softly. "That's what they all say." I folded the papers tighter, tucking them against my ribs like contraband. From there, I went to the pharmacy. Ty, the clerk who'd seen the scene with the lottery ticket, was on shift again. He leaned across the counter. "Your son came back later, asked if the system showed your ticket under his name. I told him no, but he didn't look happy." That was the second hint. Ethan wasn't just greedy, he was reckless, sloppy. I bought a pack of AA batteries I didn't need, just to leave without suspicion. Outside, I sat in the car and thumbed through the bank papers again. Numbers, dates, logins, dry facts, but facts with edges sharp enough to cut. At home, I pulled the HVAC cover and checked the ticket. Still there, sealed. Then I opened the kitchen drawer where Linda used to keep her recipes. Beneath the old index cards, I slid the bank printouts flat. One hiding place was never enough. That night, Ethan stopped by. He looked around, eyes scanning the counters like a landlord. "You been to the bank?" he asked casually. "Groceries," I said, "and coffee." He stepped closer, too close. "If you're hiding something, Dad, it won't matter. Paper won't stop the future. Neither will lies," I answered. He smirked, but his eyes flickered. That flicker told me everything. He knew I was holding something. And for the first time, I felt the balance shift, not in his favor, but in mine. When he left, I wrote a new line in the notebook, first stone in the wall, "Don't stop." The next morning, I drove to Redwood City, my shoulder stiff from a night of shallow sleep. Kara's referral had given me a name, Ellen Cho, elder law attorney. Her office sat on the second floor of a strip mall, above a nail salon and next to a tax prep storefront. Not glamorous, but the kind of place that worked quietly. The waiting room smelled faintly of disinfectant and cinnamon tea. A paralegal with round glasses handed me a clipboard. My left hand scratched answers across the intake form, the writing crooked but legible. I listed Ethan's name under potential adverse party. The words looked wrong together. My son's name and the label adverse. But that's what he was now. When Ellen called me in, she didn't waste time. Petite woman, mid-40s, sharp eyes. She closed the door and said, "Tell me what's happening." All of it. I laid the bank papers on her desk, then told her about the Golden Oaks rep, the notary, the scene at Walgreens. I didn't embellish, just the facts. She listened without interrupting, pen tapping lightly on a legal pad. "Do you have proof of mental capacity?" she asked finally. "Doctor's notes, yes, I'm still competent, just injured." "Good, that's crucial. And the lottery ticket?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Signed, secure." She smiled faintly. "Then you're in better shape than you think." Micro-conflict, her tone shifted. "But your son already tried to link accounts. That means he won't stop. If he files a fraudulent power of attorney, it could take weeks to unwind. And in those weeks, you could lose access, or worse, the house could be tied up." I clenched my good hand. "What do I do?" "We file a revocation of authority, preemptively. You declare no power of attorney exists, and you restrict financial access. Then we prepare a living trust. You control who inherits. No signatures under pressure." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She slid a form across. "Fill this in. It establishes intent. If anyone claims otherwise, we use this to prove you acted knowingly." My handwriting shook as I filled the lines. When I handed it back, she tucked it neatly into a folder, stamped it with the day's date. "You've built a wall," she said. "Now we add bricks." On the drive home, I stopped at a gas station. The cashier, a teenager with braces, glanced at my ID when I paid cash. "You're Howard, right? Saw you on the lottery app. Somebody local hit big." I forced a neutral smile. Guess somebody got lucky. The news was spreading faster than I thought. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the neighbor across the street was already watching, arms crossed. Inside, I checked the vent again. The ticket still waited in its sleeve. I whispered into the empty kitchen, just to hear it said aloud, "One step ahead." The next days I moved carefully, like a man walking through a house of glass. Every sound in the street, every knock on the door made me tense. Ethan was circling. I could feel it. At night, I sat at the kitchen table, old lamp buzzing overhead, and copied documents by hand because the printer was broken. Bank statements, property tax receipts, even the note from Stanford Hospital about my surgery estimate. My left hand cramped, letters slanting downhill, but it was proof, a record in my control. Micro-conflict. Halfway through, the doorbell rang. I froze. Papers spread out like a crime scene. Quickly, I swept them into the recipe drawer, heart pounding. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Just checking on you, Dad," he said, stepping inside without waiting. "How's the shoulder?" "Same. You know, Emily's been looking at Golden Oaks again. They've got a golf program. You always said you missed playing." I didn't answer. He walked into the kitchen, eyes roaming. His hand brushed the counter. "You've been writing?" "His lists," I said flatly. He opened the fridge, pulled out a soda, and let the silence stretch. The fizz hissed like static. Then, casually, "By the way, if you get any mail from lawyers, hand it to me. They love confusing old folks with legalese." I forced a smile. "Good to know." When he left, I exhaled so hard my chest hurt. The papers were still in the drawer, safe for now. The next morning, I drove to FEDEX. The clerk wore earbuds, chewing gum, barely looking up. I slid a packet of copies across. "Overnight delivery." The label read, "Ellen Cho, attorney at law." The clerk scanned it, slapped a sticker, tossed it in a bin. That thunk felt like armor sliding into place. Back in the car, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Where were you this morning?" No question mark. Not curiosity and surveillance. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to the storage unit on the edge of town. I hadn't been there in years. The dust smelled of cardboard and oil. Inside an old toolbox, I hid a second set of copies, taped inside the lid. Insurance. Always insurance. But as I turned the lock, I caught a flash in the corner of my eye. A dark sedan idling 2 rows down, windows tinted, engine running. It pulled away the second I looked. Coincidence? Maybe. My gut said no. That night, I checked the vent. Ticket still there. But for the first time, I wondered, if he searched hard enough, would he find it? The thought crawled under my skin. So I whispered into the empty house, "Not yet, Ethan. You'll never get ahead of me." And with that, I began planning the next move. Not just hiding, but striking. 2 nights later, Ethan showed up again, this time with no smile at all. He didn't knock. He used his old key, the one I'd never gotten around to taking back. The door swung open and slammed shut behind him. "Where were you today?" he asked. No greeting, no small talk. "Why?" I said, staying seated at the table. "Because Chase called me." "They called you?" His eyes narrowed. "They shouldn't have, but sometimes these systems link contacts. They said you'd been in about restricting accounts. Why would you do that, Dad?" I could feel the sweat prick my neck. My left hand curled around the edge of the notebook I'd been writing in. Maybe I wanted control of my own money. You don't even know what control means anymore. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If you make this hard, you're just proving my point." Micro-conflict. Emily's voice chimed from behind him. I hadn't even noticed her follow him in. "We should move up the Golden Oaks intake, Ethan, before he does something worse, before he loses the ticket." I slammed my palm on the table. The sound startled even me. "The ticket is mine, signed, stamped, and no one touches it but me." Emily gave Ethan a sharp look, whispering, "Not here, not loud." He exhaled through his nose, forcing calm. "Dad, look at yourself. You're hiding things, making secret trips, acting paranoid. People are going to say you're not fit. Judges don't care about your pride. They care about capacity." "I still have capacity," I said. The words scraped my throat like gravel. He leaned down, inches from my face. Not for long. When they finally left, the house felt smaller, walls pressing in. I checked the vent 3 times before midnight. The ticket was there, but his words lingered, not for long. The next day I met Ellen again. I showed her the texts, the bank alerts, everything. She tapped her pen on the pad. This is pressure, coercion. If he tries to file for guardianship, we need contemporaneous evidence you're competent. And if he claims I'm paranoid, she looked me straight in the eye. Then you prove you're not. That evening, I did something reckless. I set up my old camcorder, the one Ethan used in high school for a film project. I pointed it at the kitchen table, light blinking red. When Ethan came by, pushing forms again, I let him talk. Let him say nursing home, ticket, sign now. Every word caught on tape. Word caught. Micro-conflict. Halfway through, he noticed the red light. His face drained, then hardened. You think this will protect you? He hissed, slamming the folder shut. I think truth will, I answered. He stormed out, but I knew what I saw in his eyes. Not fear, not yet, but awareness. He realized I wasn't as weak as he thought, and for the first time, I realized it too. The camcorder sat on the counter, still blinking red when I rewound it. My thumb hesitated over the worn play button. The screen flickered to life, grainy, washed in the yellow kitchen light. There was Ethan's voice, sharp and impatient. You don't get it, Dad. This house, that ticket, they're mine. Sign it now, or I'll make sure you don't get a choice. Then my own voice, quiet but steady. The truth doesn't need your permission. The recording ended with the thud of the folder, the slam of the door. I sat there grinning at the little screen. For the first time in weeks, I felt taller in my own house. Proof. Not scribbled notes, not memories that could be dismissed, but Ethan's own words, caught forever. Micro-conflict. Later that night, my phone lit up with his text. Delete whatever you think you recorded. It won't save you. I didn't reply. Instead, I ejected the tape, slipped it into a plastic sleeve, and drove straight to FedEx. Another overnight packet, another brick in the wall. Ellen called me the next morning. I have the tape. It's strong. If he pushes guardianship or tries to contest capacity, we'll use this. Judges don't like bullies. Bullies. The word rang in my head. My son. A bully. I thought of him at 5, running through the backyard with a stick for a sword, yelling that he'd protect the house. Now he was trying to take it. That afternoon, I went to the bank again. Kara looked up from her desk, recognition in her eyes. We processed your restrictions. Accounts are locked to your authorization only. No outside payees. Relief washed through me, small, fragile, but real. When I stepped back into the sunlight, the world looked sharper. The smell of hot asphalt, the shimmer of cars on El Camino, even the hawk circling overhead. All of it felt like mine again. That night Ethan showed up. He paced the living room, jaw tight. You think hiding behind lawyers and clerks will stop me? I leaned back in my chair, the camcorder beside me, its red light blinking again. Say it louder, I told him, so the mic can catch it. He froze. For once he had no comeback, just silence. And in that silence, I tasted victory. Small, yes, temporary maybe, but victory all the same. I wrote in the notebook before bed. First win, more to come. The silence didn't last. 3 nights without Ethan, then headlights swept across my driveway and stopped. The slam of the car door, heavy steps on the porch, the old lock turning with a key I'd never reclaimed. He walked in like a landlord. Emily followed, clutching her phone like a witness. You've been recording me, Ethan said before I could speak. His eyes burned with certainty. I kept my voice low. I've been writing. Don't lie. He pulled up his phone. I saw the red light. Emily saw it too. You think you can build a case? I didn't answer. Silence is a blade if you hold it steady. Micro-conflict? He scrolled, shoved the screen toward me. My inbox. He'd broken into my email. Ellen's name clear as day. Attachments. Dates. You think lawyers keep you safe? He said. I know every move you make. My throat went dry, but I forced the words out. Careful enough? He paced the living room, voice rising. You're paranoid. Everyone sees it. Even Alvarez told me you've been muttering about neighbors spying. He's ready to testify. Do you get that? You're handing me evidence. It felt like a shove to the chest. I never said that. He says you did. And guess who people believe? Not you. I realized then what he was doing. Rehearsing. Lines sharpened for a courtroom. You're building a case, I said. His smile was thin, almost cruel. Finally, you're not as slow as you look. The next morning I drove to Ellen's office again. She listened, jaw tight, then pulled a form from her drawer. Affidavit of capacity, she said. We'll get it notarized. Read every line. My left hand cramped as I traced each sentence out loud before signing. She stamped it, filed it. If he drags you to probate court, this is your shield. When I stepped outside, my gut turned cold. Across the street, Ethan's car idled. He sat behind the wheel, sunglasses hiding his eyes, engine running. He didn't wave, just watched. I got into my own car, heart hammering. As I pulled past, he lifted his chin slightly like a warning. By the time I reached my driveway, he was gone. That night the house felt smaller. Every creak of the old wood sounded like footsteps. I checked the vent 3 times before midnight, fingers brushing the edge of the ticket. Still there, still mine. But Ethan's words lingered. Not for long. I opened the notebook, scrawled across the page. He knows I'm fighting. Now he'll fight dirtier. 2 days later, the knock wasn't Ethan's. It was louder, official. When I opened the door, a man in a county badge stood there, clipboard in hand. Mr. Howard, Adult Protective Services. We've had a report of possible incapacity. Just routine. Behind him, Ethan lingered by the curb, arms folded. Emily leaned against the car, her smile too thin. I'm fine, I told the agent. He glanced past me into the living room. May I come in? Micro-conflict. I hesitated, and that hesitation was all Ethan needed. Go ahead, he called from the curb. He forgets things. The agent stepped inside. He asked simple questions, his pen scratching. Name, date, address. I answered clean, steady, my voice sharper than my pulse. But then he asked, any financial confusion lately? Any misplaced documents? My mind flashed to the hidden copies in the recipe drawer, the toolbox at the storage unit, the camcorder tape already in Ellen's office. If Ethan had sniffed out even one... I keep my records, I said. Where? The agent pressed. I gestured to the kitchen table, where only my notebook sat. He eyed it, flipped a page without asking. His brows rose at the heavy block letters. They want me gone. Ethan stepped into the doorway. See? Paranoid, obsessed. This is what I've been saying. I snatched the notebook back, heat rising in my face. Those are my words, my house. You don't... Mr. Howard, the agent cut gently. Maybe it's best if we schedule a cognitive assessment, just to put concerns to rest. Ethan's smirk widened. He thought he'd won. But then, salvation. My phone buzzed on the counter. Ellen's name. I answered on speaker. Mr. Howard, she said, her voice crisp. I filed your affidavit this morning. Judge's stamp is already on record. If anyone questions your capacity, you have legal standing. The agent blinked. That's unusual efficiency. Necessary, Ellen replied. And binding. Ethan's jaw clenched. Emily muttered something sharp under her breath. The agent closed his clipboard. Then I'll note the affidavit. No further action at this time. He nodded once, then left, footsteps fading down the walk. Silence hung thick. Ethan glared at me like I'd pulled a trick. You think this buys you time? It doesn't. I met his stare, my hand flat over the notebook. Time is all I need. He left without another word. The car engine roared, tires screeching down the street. I sank into the chair, sweat dampening my collar, my heart pounded, but the ticket still lay safe behind the vent, and Ellen's voice still echoed in my ear. Binding. It wasn't victory, but it wasn't defeat either, and sometimes survival is its own kind of win. I wrote in the notebook, close call. He almost had me. Next time, I'll be ready. The courthouse on Broadway in Redwood City looked nothing like the places on TV. No grand marble stairs, no soaring columns, just a squat government building with tinted windows and a row of news vans parked outside. Channel 7, Channel 11. Even a crew from San Francisco. Reporters clustered on the sidewalk, coffee cups in hand, eyes hunting for sound bites. Ellen had warned me, he'll try to frame it as an emergency guardianship. If the judge buys incapacity, you lose control of your house, your accounts, even your medical decisions. So I buttoned my shirt carefully that morning, the left hand struggling but determined. The camcorder tape was already logged as evidence. My bank records, the affidavit, copies sealed and stamped. And the ticket. The ticket was tucked inside my jacket, my name clear across the back in shaky but undeniable ink. As I stepped out of the taxi, microphones swung my way. Mr. Howard, is it true your son tried to place you in assisted living against your will? Are you the lottery winner? $36 million? Do you fear for your safety? I didn't answer. Words once given belong to others. Today my words would be used only once, in the right place. Inside, the courtroom buzzed like a hive. Wooden benches creaked under neighbors, HOA members, even Marlene from the diner. Alvarez raised a hand from the back row, silent support. At the plaintiff's table, Ethan sat in a tailored jacket he didn't own 2 months ago. Emily beside him, lips pressed in a perfect line. The bailiff called order. The judge, silver-haired, glasses low on his nose, scanned the docket. Case, Howard versus Howard, petition for guardianship. My stomach tightened, but Ellen's hand on my arm steadied me. She rose, calm, professional. Your Honor, this petition is not only premature, it is malicious. We will prove capacity, and we will show coercion by the petitioner. Ethan leaned forward, voice smooth. Your Honor, my father has been confused, paranoid, unable to manage his affairs. He hallucinates conspiracies. He is a danger to himself financially and physically. We only want to protect him. A murmur rippled across the benches. I saw Emily nodding solemnly, playing her part. The judge raised a brow. Mr. Howard, are you prepared to respond? I stood. My bad shoulder ached, but I forced myself tall. The courtroom hushed. I let the silence stretch just long enough to feel the weight of it. Yes, I said finally. I'm prepared. Micro-conflict. Ethan smirked, leaning back in his chair, as if to say you'll crumble under pressure. But the first step had been taken. I was inside, visible, standing in my own defense. The walls he built around me, nursing homes, notaries, whispered lies, had been replaced with 4 actual walls of justice. And this time, everyone was watching. The judge tapped his gavel lightly. Then let us begin. Ellen rose slowly, adjusting her glasses. Her calm carried across the room. Your Honor, we begin with capacity. Exhibit A, an affidavit signed by Mr. Howard, notarized and stamped by this very court 2 days ago. Exhibit B, a declaration from Dr. Patel, Stanford Orthopedics, shoulder injury only, no cognitive impairment. The clerk carried the folders to the bench. Paper rustled, pen scratched. The judge glanced down through his glasses, expression unreadable. Mr. Howard, he nodded at Ethan. Response? Ethan leaned forward, spreading his hands in a gesture of false patience. On good days, my father can answer questions. On paper, he can appear competent. But in reality, he forgets things, hides objects, writes paranoid notes. He is declining. That's why we acted. A low murmur rippled through the benches. I caught Alvarez frown, arms folded. Ellen kept her eyes on the judge. Then let's consider financial handling. We call our first witness, Ms. Cara Nguyen, branch manager, Chase Bank. Cara entered briskly, professional. She was sworn in, then took the stand with a folder in her lap. Ellen stepped closer. Ms. Nguyen, did you observe repeated login attempts to Mr. Howard's account from an external device? Yes, Cara said firmly. Several attempts in the last 2 weeks, all unauthorized. Did you inform Mr. Howard? Yes. Did you also note that these attempts linked to a device ID associated with the petitioner? Cara hesitated, then nodded. Yes. He had micro-conflict. Ethan shot up, voice sharp. Objection. Speculative. Device IDs don't prove. The judge cut him off. Sit down. The record will note facts, not conclusions. Continue, Ms. Cho. Cara held up printouts. Each attempt originated at times Mr. Howard was physically present in our branch. He could not have made them. We secured his account accordingly. When she stepped down, the hush in the room deepened. Ethan's face was tight, Emily staring at her lap. Ellen called the next witness, Officer Reyes, the APS agent. He took the stand, gray windbreakers zipped to his throat. Officer, did you perform a welfare check on Mr. Howard's home this week? Yes. Outcome? No action needed. Mr. Howard was alert, answered all questions, and had legal documentation already on file. Ethan half rose again. He keeps a notebook saying, "They want me gone." That's paranoia. Reyes didn't blink. It's frustration, family conflict, not incapacity. Overruled, the judge said, almost bored. Ethan sat back hard, lips pressed tight. Then Ellen turned toward a familiar gold pin glinting near the aisle. We call Ms. Rachel Grady, Golden Oaks Senior Living. Rachel stepped forward, face pale. She swore in and sat. Ellen's voice stayed calm. Did you visit Mr. Howard's home with a notary at the petitioner's request? Yes. Did Mr. Howard ask for this placement? Rachel glanced at Ethan, then away. No. What words did the petitioner use that day? She swallowed. He said we needed to finish quickly, before his father changed his mind. A ripple of sound rolled across the benches, neighbors, reporters, strangers, all absorbing the line. Ethan's jaw flexed. I was helping, he snapped suddenly. He can't manage himself. He leaves the stove on. He forgets bills. I don't leave the stove on, I said, my voice carrying stronger than I expected. The judge tapped the gavel. Mr. Howard Sr., wait for your turn. Ellen nodded once and closed the folder. Your Honor, we've shown capacity affirmed, banking exploitation attempts, APS closing a false concern, and a placement coordinator pressured by the petitioner. This is not guardianship. This is control. A micro-conflict. Ethan let out a sharp laugh. Or it's a son trying to prevent disaster. He hides things, he hides money, he even hides a lottery ticket. He's confused. The word ticket set off whispers like dry leaves across the room. Cameras tilted. Reporters leaned forward. Ellen turned her head, eyes calm. We'll come to the ticket, but first, she glanced at the clerk. Play Exhibit C. The monitors flickered. Yellow kitchen light filled the screen. Grainy but clear. My counter. The folder. Ethan's voice unmistakable. This house, that ticket, they're mine. Sign it now, or I'll make sure you don't get a choice. Silence hit the room like a dropped pane of glass. Then a gasp, then a murmur. Ethan shot to his feet. That's out of context. He baited me. Let's sit down, the judge said, voice low but cutting. Ethan froze, then slowly sank. The monitors blinked black. Ellen's voice was soft, steady. Your Honor, the pattern is clear. Capacity exists. Exploitation exists. Coercion exists. The judge's gaze swept the room. Proceed. And in that moment, I felt it. The first stone cracking loose under Ethan's feet. The staircase had begun, and every step from here would take him lower. The judge cleared his throat. Continue. Ellen didn't waste time. Exhibit D, she said, lifting another folder. Bank security footage from Chase Branch, dated 2 weeks ago. The monitor lit again. The video showed Ethan at the counter, shoulders squared, leaning in close to Kara. His mouth moved, no sound, but the timestamp matched the logs already in evidence. Then Kara's own notes appeared on the screen. Petitioner asked to link external account. Denied, became agitated. Gasps broke through the benches. A neighbor whispered too loud, He lied! Straight to the judge's face. Though micro-conflict, Ethan slammed a palm against the table. That footage proves nothing. I was asking about my own account. They mix things up all the time. Kara, still seated in the witness box, spoke clearly. Number. He was asking about his father's funds, and I told him directly it wasn't allowed. The murmurs swelled again. Even Alvarez leaned forward, eyebrows lifted. The reporters scribbled like wildfire, one already whispering into a mic. Ellen nodded. We also submit Exhibit E, a recorded voicemail left on Mr. Howard's phone last week. She pressed play. Ethan's voice filled the courtroom, tinny but unmistakable. Stop making this difficult. I'm trying to protect you. Bring the ticket. I'll keep it safe. The room buzzed like a hive. Emily's face blanched. She looked at Ethan, whispered something sharp, but he shook his head violently, eyes darting toward the press bench. Fabricated, Ethan spat. Could be anybody. But the judge had already leaned back, arms crossed. Mr. Howard Jr., it is your voice. Ellen folded her arms, letting the silence drag him down. Your Honor, the pattern is escalating. Unauthorized bank access, coercive home visits, pressure with assisted living, and now, attempts to seize a winning lottery ticket signed in Mr. Howard Sr.'s name. This is exploitation, plain and simple. And Emily stood suddenly, her voice trembling. He was just scared! We both were! $36 million changes everything. She stopped herself, too late. Reporters scribbled harder. Cameras clicked. The judge rapped the gavel once. Silence. I sat straighter, my hand resting on the table. For weeks I'd been bent, hunched, waiting for the next blow. Now every eye in the room turned toward him, not me. Ethan's smirk was gone. Sweat shone at his temples. His leg bounced under the table, the tapping too loud in the sudden hush. The staircase was almost complete. One more step, and the weight of every witness, every piece of paper, every word he'd spoken, would crash down. I looked at him and thought, "You wanted me gone. Now watch me stand." Ellen placed her hand on the last folder. "Your Honor, our final exhibit. Exhibit F, the original lottery ticket, signed by Mr. Howard Sr., verified by the California Lottery Office yesterday." Gasps rippled. The clerk took the sleeve, held it up. My shaky signature stretched across the back, but it was mine, undeniable. The judge leaned forward, studying it as though the ink itself carried weight. Ethan shot up, panic cracking his voice. "That's fraud. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's senile. Sit down," the judge barked. Emily tugged at Ethan's sleeve, whispering, "Stop! Please!" But Ethan yanked free, voice rising. "That ticket was supposed to be mine. He doesn't need it. He can't even lift his arm." The words landed like stones. The benches erupted with whispers, some with open disgust. "Supposed to be mine," repeated in the air, ugly and raw. Ellen didn't move. She only said, "No further questions, Your Honor." The judge turned, face stern. "The evidence is overwhelming. Petition denied. Mr. Howard retains full control of his estate. Furthermore, I recommend this record be referred for review of potential exploitation by the petitioner." Ethan sagged into his chair, pale, sweat shining on his forehead. Emily covered her face with her hands. I rose slowly. The room quieted again. My voice felt heavier than the gavel itself. "You told me I was already gone," I said. "You buried me with papers, but papers saved me, and now they bury you." For the first time, Ethan looked small. The judge struck the gavel. "Case closed." The murmurs swelled, reporters rushing for the exit, neighbors whispering. I stood tall in my own name again. Reporters swarmed outside as we stepped into the California sun. Flashes popped, microphones shoved forward. Ellen guided me through, her calm voice cutting the noise. No comment. But Ethan's voice carried anyway. "He stole it. That ticket's mine. You'll all see, he's crazy." The crowd recoiled. Alvarez shook his head in open disgust. Someone from Channel 7 whispered, "That's going live." By the time I reached the curb, Ethan was on the sidewalk, red-faced, shouting at cameras. Emily tried to pull him away, but he shoved her off, rage twisting his features. Every word was recorded, every gesture magnified. My humiliation had become his. That night, the news replayed it all. Anchor's voice smooth, merciless. Local man attempts to strip father of rights and lottery winnings, petition denied in dramatic courtroom showdown. I watched it alone, plate of cold eggs on the table, shoulder aching. The house hummed around me, the walls finally mine again. The phone buzzed with messages I didn't open. Neighbors, old co-workers, even the pastor from Linda's church. Everyone had seen. Everyone knew. But victory is never clean, because when I checked the HVAC vent, the plastic sleeve was gone. My chest hollowed out. I tore through the house, drawers, closets, even Linda's old sweater pockets. Nothing. The Bible on the shelf was bare, my wallet empty. Then my phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "Nice speech today, but paper can't save you twice." A photo followed, the ticket held in his hand, my signature clear, his grin wider than any gavel. I froze. If he'd taken it before court, how had Ellen verified? Copies? Scans? Proof enough for the judge, but not for the bank. The lottery office demanded the original. Another buzz. "Meet me tomorrow, alone, or it burns." The screen glowed in my dark kitchen. My reflection in the window looked older, harder, a stranger with my eyes. I wrote one final line in the notebook. "It isn't over." And then I closed it.